be picking you up at work.
I'd like to welcome everyone tonight for December 9th, 2015. This is a Truth and Taxation meeting, and after we close this at 6:30, we will start the regular Moose Lake City Council meeting. The first item, because this is a official meeting, is a Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome our guests here tonight. Maybe the first item is to review these items here, which is our revenue.
It's what we would tax at a 5% increase, the total amount.
Okay. This is to Carleton County Auditor, and maybe I should start earlier in the year. The way the budget is set, the city has to, in September, I believe it is, do vote in an amount, the maximum amount that you can, or that we would tax for the following year, and the council set that at 10%, and that is always a number that is set early in the year and very seldom kept to. As you go through the budget process, that number changes, and there's discussion for a couple months with the council on different items concerning the budget and the tax in general for the city, and then it's set later in December right now. And so we hold this Truth and Taxation meeting first, and we'll have to do another official motion during the regular city council meeting, setting the tax and the budget. Right now, per the direction of the city council, Gene has put together some figures for us. This is with a 5% increase. The revenue, general revenue, payable 2015, $315,165. With a 5% increase, the payable 2016 is $338,223. As you can see, a 5% increase across the city, that's all businesses and let's say residents within the city, brings in only $23,000 to the city. So our tax base is so small that that's what a 5% increase will give the city. Just another to go on. For the library, the payable 2015 is $106,660. Payable 2016, $106,660. That did not change. The debt 2006 GO certificate of indebtedness. Now we have payable 2015 is zero. We have no idea what 2016. There won't be any. Okay. The other revenue debt, 2011 AGO capital improvement bonds, payable 2015, $39,333. Payable 2016, $39,333. This is the total payable in 2015 was $461,158. Payable in 2016, $484,216. County records show a debt levy of $185,225 needed for 2016. $76,106.62 for the $995,000 GO capital improvement bond plan bonds, series 2011A, and $109,117.53 for the 2014 GO improvement bond, series 2014A. So that is the information right now on a 5% tax increase. Any other information you'd like to give out?
Maybe that we haven't raised it for the last 2 years.
Right. We've had a 0 increase in tax for 2 years. That's what the council has voted in. I think it was 2014 and 2015 were both 0. With that, we will open it up for public comment. And we have our first guest. If you could please come up to the podium and state your name.
Thomas Byer and Demita Byer.
Demita Byer.
We own property up on Falls Boulevard, 810 and 822. We had a question about our new proposed tax. I noticed that the values and classification haven't changed on the lots that we own on the west side, which is adjoining the other lots of ours. It's $10,500 for 2015, and for 2016 it's $10,500, same amount. But the taxes went up from $90 a year to $204 a year. That's a 126.7% increase.
Now, some of that could be the school bond.
The
tax-
school bond is right here, from $13.25 to $28.49. Why did the taxes go up over?
Now, remember that the tentative, the county used the 10%. If we're going to vote a lower amount, which is proposed, that it would be down 5%. Instead of a 10%, it'd be 5%.
But the taxes did go up a little bit on our other properties, between, what was it, 1 and?
Between 1% and 3%.
1 and 3% on our other
That's
properties.
understandable.
But that over almost 127%.
126%.
Unless that's a typo.
It looks like a big portion of it is the county, Carlton County. And then the city portion is $63.10, which that's probably figured at a 10%, so that'd probably be,
30-some.
30-some maybe compared to that. And the rest, the school district, that doubled, probably because of the school. And the special taxing district, I'm assuming that's fire district?
Fire and hospital.
Mercy
Fire and
Hospital.
Mercy Hospital, and then that doubled too. Yeah. And the city only really has control on this
Yep.
portion.
30-some dollars.
Well, he went from 2644 on his actual 2015, that's the city portion, to 6310 on the 2016.
At 10%. Yeah.
It should, I think. it's-
So at 5%, it would be 30-some dollars.
Right,
Yeah.
it'll go down that portion of it.
Okay, well, we can't, in other words, you're saying that this is a normal increase then?
The city portion, that's the only thing we have control of, and that's what we will set tonight, and right now it's recommended at 5%. The other ones, the school district and the hospital and the fire, we have no control over,
The county.
and the county, right.
The city part is more than doubled.
Yeah, like 30, that's gone up 30%.
No, that's gone up 125%, from 2644 to 6310.
All right.
That's way more than 10%.
And we're not even recommended 10%. You could definitely talk to the county on that,
Yeah.
on what,
Well,
What happened there?
We missed the county meeting. That was
Yesterday.
yesterday.
but that's okay, you can still ask them why that is
Yeah,
the way
I've
it is.
never seen this,
Yeah,
unless they put the decimal in the wrong place, because our other ones were between 1% and 3%. It
Well,
wouldn't-
it just,
even, you're right, Gene, even at 10%, it wouldn't be that high.
It wouldn't be way up to
I'm
63.
thinking the decimal point's in the wrong spot because
Something's wrong.
it's,
Yeah,
because from 90 to $204.
yeah.
But then, so we should
We
contact
should go to the county then.
because see, even the city went way up.
They all went up 126%.
Right.
They all did.
Each of them.
No, you can talk, even though they had their meeting, it doesn't mean you can't come and have them explain everything to you. And if there is a mistake, they'll catch it at that time. That's absolutely do that.
Right, well, see, there's been no change in the valuation.
Right,
Well,
The
no,
valuation's exactly the
Right.
same.
right.
yeah, because
and-
even the city part is way off.
Right.
I would go there and tell them, though, that we're only raising ours 5%, so why did it go up? Because we have done nothing different as a city.
I
Right.
think something's wrong with their math.
Even if they use the
Yeah.
10%.
Even the
Exactly.
10%, which is a temporary setting until we vote tonight and set it at, the proposed 5% is what we're proposing.
Okay, we'll do that then. We'll go to the
Yeah.
county because I think something's wrong there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, yes, very good, thank you. David? Yes.
I represent Lakeshore Manor, 24-unit building, 900 Lakeshore Drive, and I have properties across the street, 5 acres that I've tried to sell and haven't been able to, but will continue to try. And then I have a strip of land behind the garages. I think we total about 1,800 running feet on both sides of 289 on 73. And of course, the issue or problems is to get an access off from 73. Probably impossible, but maybe not.
Yeah.
I was at the hearing here for the Highway 73. I didn't know it was for the commercial route. Mr. Mayor, you mentioned about a small tax base. I live in Cloquet, but I've been down here most of my life. We put this building in here. Duffy Wenberg were the partners that were the prime movers, and of course they had their problems, so they sold out. And but in '76 we built this building. It is paid now very close to $500,000 in taxes. And you talk about tax base. I made a very big mistake when I sold land to the developers that put up the meadows, not knowing they were seeking tax increment funding, which does not help the tax base. And that's one thing I'd like to ask this council to consider. Don't do this anymore for projects that don't produce jobs. That's what tax increment funding was set up for. And of course, you've got one of the nicest employers. I just met 2 of my Cloquet friends up at the new Quick Trip. And I don't think they asked you for anything. And our project asked you for nothing. We put in the water and the sewer from, what's the doctor's name again, ma'am? Munson's Corner, I called it, up to our entrance, and that sewer and water were instrumental in, of course, the Meadows development, and hopefully some other stuff in the future. And, you know, to me, tax increment funding gives back to the developer 80 to 90% of the taxes. They pay the taxes, and it kind of filters around with the county, and it comes back to them. It's like a gift. And I don't know, I'm a developer, and I don't want a gift. I want help to put things in order. And in fact, when another mistake I made with the Meadows is I should have had a site plan in my hand and had a final say in it, because does anybody notice where that building is sited? Below grade. We have a problem with snow. We have to keep our snow away from them and that type of thing, or we'd flood them out in the spring. And I don't think whoever sited that building from St. Cloud ever was on the site. So that's the problem. But getting back to the expenses, 2 years ago, we were at $800,000 valuation. Then they jacked it up, or 3 years ago, we were at 800,000. 2 years ago, they brought it up to 880, 10% increase. And at the same time, we got these special levies. We went from a little over 15,000 to now over $21,000 in property taxes. It's almost $1,000 a unit, and they are not big units. It's a plain Jane building. That's what you can build because that's what people can afford. I have right now 4 people, going to have 2 more, on the Housing Authority program. This is something new for us, it is, and we talked about this today. But this is what it's coming down to, is people don't have money to pay rent and do other things, so they look to the government for help. And they get it. I'm pleased to work with the Housing Authority. The Section 8 existing manager from Cloquet is a good friend of mine, Bob Nelson. I have many units in Cloquet on this program. Whoever said our economy is in good shape is lying through their teeth. It's not true. You go to Cloquet, we have so fewer jobs than we did 10 years ago, 15 years ago, et cetera. So I think it behooves all of us to make sure we don't waste the tax dollars. I know expenses to be paid out of these rents are property taxes, insurance, utilities, which are water, sewer, refuse hauling. Thank God we don't pay the heat, only to heat the common areas. The tenant pays their own energy, and that's how most of these buildings should be, but they aren't. They're centrally heated, and there's so much waste with a centrally heated building. I've had them in Cloquet. So I do have a question about Mercy Hospital. Nobody had to vote on that? On what we have here under special?
As far as the city's responsibility, we don't have any responsibility as far as them setting their.
Who do they
tax.
deal through, Mayor?
They have their
County?
board. They have a board.
But somebody's got to give them permission to levy a tax on us.
They do have a tax authority once they set up that hospital board. That's like any community that has a hospital board. They're set up through the state, has to go through the county and the state and the community.
Does anybody ever say no?
It would be up to the people to go to those meetings to express their opinion. Those are posted,
Okay.
and we as a council individually can go and tell them that we don't want our tax to go up. That'd be up to each council member to do it, but as a city, we don't. That's not our responsibility. It's up to the individuals throughout the whole district. And it just isn't Moose Lake. It's it goes up to through Barnum, east, west, south, the whole district, townships and cities.
We have a similar situation in Cloquet where we have this consolidated fire and ambulance service, et cetera, which is like Topsy. It's grown and grown and grown, and it's a very expensive thing. Every vehicle you see is, $100,000, $200,000.
Yeah.
And they just levy, and again, they don't have to ask for voter approval. And I think it's a travesty, because we're supposed to run this. They don't understand that it's the tenants that pay these expenses. But of course, if we have vacancies or people don't pay their rent, it comes out of the landlord's pocket. And I have some partners. They're very fortunate because we got rid of our mortgage a long time ago. If we had a mortgage today, we'd be in trouble. We would not be viable.
I think the city has done our job. For 2 years, we had 0% increase.
And so is Cloquet.
Yeah.
They've told the line, it's
Yeah.
the school district and the special
And
assessments.
what is hitting us, and probably everyone too, is the health increases. Ours went up 8% on health, 4% on dental, 4% on glasses, the vision. That hurts. It hits you right.
Well, I'm self-employed, and I've been self-employed pretty much all my life, 43 years in the apartment business, and I pay my own. My wife pays her own. She has a business in Cloquet as well. And to me, when Minnesota Power says they're going to have a 14.5% rate increase, and by the way, the legislators voted last year that they don't have to have a public hearing. Isn't that amazing? They're going to take our money and give it to somebody else, the heavy industries, which in northern Minnesota are for the most part failing, and it's not because of the cost of energy.
No. No.
So,
And we know what's going on. We watch that closely. It does affect all of northern Minnesota.
well, I
For
hope we
sure.
don't have any more tax increment funded projects, especially in the apartment end, because we can't compete with them. I can't compete with the Meadows. And fortunately, you know, we are debt-free. If we weren't, we definitely couldn't do that. I thank you for your time.
We appreciate your input. That's what this is for.
I've been at all these meetings, and I'm
Yeah.
going to be I said at the city council meeting in Cloquet last week that I bet the councilors were happy there weren't school board members. And I got quite a laugh out of that, because they have got 134% increase in my school levies over last year. I mean, it's horrendous.
That is a lot. That's huge.
And
They
it's
don't
gonna
have a
be-
building project, do they?
Oh, yeah, they're going to build a new middle school,
It's a middle school.
tearing down the old high school, which had 2 additions on it and was converted to a middle school, next to my homestead, which I still own, bought from my mother years ago. And it was added on to, it should have never been added on to. They made a mistake, the 2 school boards, no parking. We've got the Queen of Peace, we've got the Presbyterian Church, we had the old Zion Lutheran Church, and then the high school, all in this concentrated area. It was fine when everybody walked to school and all the teachers lived right around it, but that changed.
Yeah.
So now they're gonna build a new one and a new school, and if that helps education, I'd like to know how.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate for coming. We have about another 6 minutes of time with Truth and Taxation, and we'll close and start the regular meeting. Any other guests that are going to speak on truth and taxation? We could ask Steve to shut it off until 6:30. We'll stop broadcasting now until 6:30. We'll turn on at that time. Thank you. The recommendation on the budget and the 5%, which we would need that motion,
I'll make the motion to recommend that we set the levy at 5%.
and the budget as presented.
And the budget as presented, because this stuff's not in there, right?
Yes.
It's in there, but it's like miscellaneous, or what?
Well, those items, you tentatively accepted those and set those. You can change them during the year as,
We didn't accept all these, though.
No.
The $100,000
then we'll discuss
project
that during the city council meeting. Okay. So it'll just be the budget minus those items.
Minus the
Right.
capital requests.
Right. You have a second?
Second.
Any other questions, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same?
Aye.
Very good. Thank you. Motion carried. Do we have a motion to close the Truth and Taxation meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Steve, I think we're already transmitting. I see you're on, we're good. We're just ready to start the regular council meeting. Mr. Peterson, we'll wait till you get your stuff set up.
Sure. I'm ready. Where's the,
All right, we will open the regular city council meeting. We've already done the Pledge of Allegiance during the Truth and Taxation. So the first item will be the agenda. Any additions and/or corrections to the agenda? And I do have one addition to make. Under 4C, We have A, and the addition will be B, which is art project for the library. Anyone else have any additions or changes? Yes, sir.
I do, Mr. Mayor. November 10th, the joint Moose Lake City, or Moose Lake School and City Council meeting. Under areas of concern by the City Council, I believe there's a couple more areas I'd like added that we did discuss, which is public safety, rezoning, and best use of property.
Public safety, rezoning.
And the best use of property.
That's in the minutes, so correct?
In the minutes.
So it's nothing that we have to add to the agenda.
No, I just wanted that put in there because it was presented that way.
I have those three down, Gene, so I'm remembered. Okay. Any other changes or corrections, additions? Hearing none, all in favor, or do I have a motion to accept the agenda? Excuse me.
So move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any other questions, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. We do have some guests tonight, so after the consent agenda, if the council is right, we will have our guests come up and conduct their business, and then they can leave if they so choose to, or can stay for the rest of the city council meeting. With that said, we'll move on to number 2A, the minutes. And number 1, November 10th, 2015, joint Moose Lake School and City Council meeting with additions that have been requested. Number 2 is the November 12th, 2015 regular Moose Lake City Council meeting. Number 3 is November 30th special Moose Lake City Council meeting. Number 4 is December 5th, 2015 special City Council meeting. Number 5 is November 3rd, 2015 special Water and Light meeting. Number 6 is November 12th, 2015 special Water and Light meeting. Number 7 is November 23rd, 2015 regular Water and Light meeting. Do we have any other questions or discussions on the minutes? Hearing none, do we have a motion to accept in the consent agenda the minutes?
So moved.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Under 2B, financial reports, we have the city accounts payable December 2015. Number 2, the city financial statements November 2015. Number 3, liquor store and profit loss statements for November 2015. Any discussions and/or questions?
I have a question on page 30.
Okay.
Check 039995 to Central Minnesota Housing for an admin fee.
That money is money that we received from the grant.
Okay.
And it all has to get, it comes to us and then we pay it out.
Okay.
So we've already been refunded for this.
Okay.
I have one question also. On page 31, 40049 to Image Design for $590 for polycarbonate panel for hockey.
We pay for, how does that work, Ted? We pay for the signage and then Dial gets reimbursed.
Right.
Oh, so this is signage.
Signage.
Yeah.
Okay. I was
We've
wondering.
taken over, I think, all the signs. We get all the revenue now from them.
That's fine. I
Yeah.
was thinking it was a panel for actually the hockey arena. Okay.
Any other questions on the financial reports? Hearing none, do we have a motion to accept in the consent agenda the financial reports?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further questions, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. Let me get this. second here to get the rest of these in. Moving on to number 3, public comment. This time is reserved for comments from the public on matters not listed on the agenda. Please keep comments to 3 minutes. Any guess? We will be calling you up on the next item. This would just be, just things not on the agenda. Oh, okay. Okay, and I know for the art project you're on the agenda too. So I hear, so we have no public comment at this time. And we will move to our guests tonight, so they can both conduct their business and then move on. Under new business 6A, Jean, and this set up an artist group in Moose Lake.
Yes, thank you.
So thank you, Mayor Shaw and members of the council for hearing me. My name is Jean Doty, and I've lived in the Moose Lake area for about 2.5 years. After I retired from the UMD Music Department, we rented in the area for 14 months and liked it so much we bought a house right in town close to the hospital. So very pleased to be here, and I also want you to know that I'm your Arrowhead Regional Arts Council representative, and that's in the capacity that I speak to you tonight. First of all, unlike this topic of taxes, I would like to congratulate you on, from the outside, what seems to be a very strong feeling of optimism in the Moose Lake community, both with the hospital expansion and the school as pillars, but also all of the building on the 73 corridor and the downtown area also. What you may not be aware of is that along with the very obvious building, there has also been a resurgence and a growth in the artists' community. And while the Blacklock Gallery and the Larson Clayworks has brought national and international prominence to Moose Lake, there are nonetheless hundreds of artists doing artistic projects every day. And we might ask, well, okay, so what does this have to do with us as the City Council? What does this have to do with this meeting tonight? There's been a lot of discussion lately about the importance of arts and the impact of arts in one's life. And if you're an artist yourself, you probably agree with the idea that art for art's sake, the fact that art gives you something in your life that nothing else can, is the most important part of that experience. But there's been a lot of research lately that points to some other pretty startling facts about art activity. I'd just like to make a couple of quick quotes on a recent study that came out regarding arts education and the effect on young adults and students. A couple of the things. For instance, each additional year of art study was significantly associated with a 20% reduction in the likelihood that an adolescent would ever be suspended out of school. Former art students are 55% more likely to have attended any post-secondary school by adulthood than were former non-art students. And former students of music and theater were significantly more optimistic as adults. I don't know about you, but I don't hear too much optimism these days, so I would say that that probably is the most important. Well, so it affects lives in a positive way, that we can believe. It also has significant economic impact, and I'm going to leave you with this sheet, but the Regional Arts Council, Arrowhead Regional Arts Council serves Region 3 in the state, which includes the counties of Aiken, Carleton, Cook, Itasca, Couchiching Lake, and St. Louis. you may be blown away by the fact that the total economic impact in this study, which was just put out by Creative Minnesota, is $39,740,000 of economic impact in that Region 3 area, with the equivalent of 1,063 full-time equivalent jobs supported by nonprofits and art activity. Art has a real economic impact, but I'm here today because of something the Arrowhead Regional Arts Council Director said, and that was, of all the 7 counties, Carleton County has the least amount of activity in the arts community. And Moose Lake in particular was cited for being lower than many of the other areas. And it really does not make sense to me. We have a very strategic location on the I-35 corridor, people going between the Twin Cities and the Duluth, North Shore area, or the Twin Cities and the Iron Range every day. We have many, many artists in our area who are struggling to sell things out of their home, to create things out of their home and distribute them. We need a permanent place where they can display their pieces. That's the bottom line, and it's just something I'd like to leave you with. People would drive on 73 on their way to the Iron Range, and they wouldn't just drive through Moose Lake. They would stop and visit and impact our economy with their activity. So I'd like you to think about that possibility. The town of Aiken has the J. Quees Art Center. Grand Rapids has McCrosty. There are all kinds of activities moving and going on in these other communities, and I'd like to really urge you to think about the possibility for Moose Lake. So that discussion can be continued later because I'm sure I'm over my 3 minutes. But in conclusion, I'd like to invite you to the inaugural event of the newly rejuvenated artistic community here. We're going with the name Nemadji Watershed Artists for the moment. But our first event is going to be held on December 19th on Saturday, and I'm going to give you some cards to pass out. It's a sale that the Depot is helping us to host, and there will be about 20 artists selling their wares of all different genres: stained glass, photography, painting, textiles. And if you're like me, you may want to use that as a perfect opportunity to both start and finish your holiday shopping. But I want you to think about this event, which we are calling Winter Solstice, as being something far more important and more impactful than just a holiday sale. I want you to think about it as an event to support our artists, and also as an opportunity to think about supporting an increased artist presence and economic opportunity for Moose Lake. So I will leave you with the sheets from which I quoted, as well as some of the cards that give information about the holiday sale. Please distribute them among yourselves, pass them out. We look forward to seeing you on the 19th, and thank you so much for your time.
Could you mention the times again on the 19th?
Yes, it starts from 10 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's at the Depot Community Room. On Saturday the 19th. Free admission, free coffee and cider, and beautiful, beautiful art pieces to look at and purchase.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Are there any questions by the council, by the way, before you step away?
Just wonderful.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Really pleased. I think that's in the packet, isn't it, Bill? Yep.
Oh, it is. Each one got one of
They
these.
got a big.
Okay. Do you want one? You got one. I can pass some down to. That's a catchy name you guys have, too.
Thank you.
Moving on to, in the new business, 6B, Steve Olson. This is a Historical Society kitchen project request. Do we have a page number for any information? 88?
Just for the record, yesterday, the Board of Directors of the Historical Society voted to rename the community room up there. It's now the Sioux Line Event Center in the Fires of 1918 Museum. There's been confusion in the past between this community room and that community room, and now, hopefully with our new letterhead and advertising, we'll get rid of that. I put together a handout, which I think you hopefully all have. Roy Urban, who works for the USDA as a commercial kitchen inspector for the USDA and state of Minnesota, put us on to these Horizon Kitchen people. We did solicit bids from 3 different companies. They're the only one that responded. They did all the engineering for us as a kitchen and submitted it to the state of Minnesota Health Department for approval. It's about a 4 to 5 month submittal process every time you change anything, so it's been going for a while. We have a chance to get a $100,000 forgivable grant from USDA for work to complete the kitchen up there in that building, and we need to match that $100,000 with 50%. We have $25,000, so we're kind of asking the city to put up the other $25,000 so we can get the kitchen done up there. It's a fundraiser for the city. It brings people into town. The municipal liquor store takes care of all the liquor sales up there, and Mark's told us that they do real well at events when they're up there. And we just think it's a good project, and we have the opportunity to get it done now. And I know $25,000 is a lot of money, but it's you get to own all the equipment with the city. It's in your building, if that counts for anything. So you may have questions of me.
What is your timeline that you've been given?
The USDA has, they're open, when we get the application done, they will process it right away. Connie Christensen from Carleton County Economic Development is helping us with a grant project with a guy named Tyler Ray from Baxter, Minnesota, who's a USDA guy. So we're hoping to get started right after the first of the year. Cousins did some work up there for us already, and they'd kind of like a winter job inside. We'd kind of like to get it done. And
So you're looking for a commitment now so you can finish the application, and when it goes in, will there be a screening process, and does it go through
I don't know a lot about that. Connie is very confident after talking to this Tyler Ray guy that if we submit the application and we got it right, that USDA will give us the money. The requirements that they asked for was a median income under $34,000, population less than $8,000, and then the 50% matching. And unlike a lot of places, they seem to have some money.
yeah. She works with the Connie's VDA director at Carleton
Right.
County. USDA, of course, that's
the agriculture department. In the kitchen plan, there's a small copy in the packet that's already been approved by the State Department of Health for construction, so we're ready. So, thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you. Council, we have a discussion on our budget. What item is that? Our budget.
Shouldn't that be on here?
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Why don't we add, Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
why don't we add it to this sheet?
Huh?
Why don't we add it to this
Why
sheet?
don't we do that?
Or,
But I'm looking for where that is in our agenda.
Okay.
I just put it in up here under
Okay.
this stuff, so we'll just have to add it.
Gene had put it in under the truth and taxation stuff, so we will have to. Hey, with, we got the investment, we've got. Yeah. I think we need a separate item. We've already approved the agenda. to consider that, we have to discuss it with this one, sheet 16.
Well, do you want a motion to add this item to sheet 16?
We're going to have to. We're going to have to amend the motion we made earlier, I guess by making another motion and adding this to the agenda. We have no other choice. There isn't anything that it would really go under. It would have to be under new business HRJ.
You're talking this capital request sheet?
Right. This, you'd have to go under this 2016 capital requests. You have that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Under 6C, we have Nick with Ellis and Associates, and discussion on debt limits and other financial discussions. Thank you. You know, and part of that, a little bit discussion on this 2015 local road improvement funding project, which is $750,000, which is matching. It's a matching proposal.
Thank you, Mayor. Nick Anhud with Ellers and Associates, and I actually do have some handouts here for the council. And
Do we have anything else in here, Gene? Any page?
There is one in here, thank you.
Okay.
Page 9.
What do you got? Page what?
Okay, 99. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
That's where I have all my notes.
Thanks, Nick. And the information, a package starts on page 99. And I think that goes through 103?
4.
104.
it is.
104?
I will. Thank you again. The information that I just placed before you is actually an update from what is included in your packets. Interest rates change on a daily basis, and so part of the discussion we wanted to have is really a discussion about debt capacity. As the mayor had mentioned, there is a potential project on the table for $750,000 in matching funds for a potential street, and I believe street and utility project, if I understand correctly.
Yes. Yep.
And so there's been some discussion about, well, you know, how do we quantify the ability to incur more debt? How should we frame whether or not to move forward with this project? So some of the information I put together was just some background on the city's current existing debt portfolio, if you will. What is on the books? What are your fixed payments out into the future? And so this first page of the handout, what this does is it's a snapshot of the entire portfolio, and I have 3 different categories or 3 different buckets, if you will, of different types of debt that are supported from different revenue streams. On the left-hand side of the page, you'll notice at the top it says Geo, Water, and Sewer Revenue. These are general obligation bonds or loans placed with either the public market, as is the case with the 2013 refinancing that the city executed, or it's placed with the state Public Facilities Authority, which is essentially a bond bank, if you will. The state actually administers loans to municipalities for various projects, and the majority of these are either clean water projects or related to the sewer system, which obviously earlier this fall we all went through. So that is the amount outstanding that's being paid from sewer and water revenues derived from your utility system. As you can see, payments are out for essentially a 20-year period. Most of the structure is actually very well aligned. You see that payments for the next several years are all fairly level, right in just under $500,000 a year that the utilities are paying off that debt. As we get into the future, about 9 years from now in 2024, they start to tail off. Some of those older loans are paid off, and so you start actually having some capacity, if you will, if we wanted to keep our payment stream level into the future, you start achieving some capacity starting in 2024. This is not to say that you can't incur more debt on top of that. It's not really an analysis of that. This is really just looking at what we have right now. If you want to keep that level into the future, here's the capacity that you could generate. So the second column is the amount of principal outstanding. You see how that is getting paid down over time. The amortization is another term for that. And then the third is the difference or what's being freed up as that debt service is reduced into the future. At the top, there's another column called NPV. It's net present value. So if you were to frame that capacity that's freed up over that 20-year period and assign basically what you would expect to pay in interest on a potential obligation right now, I put in there 3.8%. I think that's a fairly fair rate for where a 20-year bond would place for Moose Lake right now. You see that capacity, if we were to structure debt so that you did not incur any payments until 2024, and then those payments were $50,000 starting at that point, and then they ramp up as you pay off more debt, essentially that equates to a capacity of $945,000 today, or $946,000. So if
But then we lose reserve. Our reserve would go down if we did borrow more and spend more. That's what it kind of tells us, correct?
Well, this would actually just say that you could, if you wanted to capitalize that, what's freed up in the future, when the debt starts coming off the books, if you wanted to capitalize that today, it'd be just under $1 million that would provide you in proceeds for a project right now. The trade-off in that is that you would then be level out for 20 years on all of your debt, essentially. And so anything that you would want, any other capital project in that entire period would have to layer on top, and so you would essentially be increasing your burden at that point. This is really a model that shows you we're not increasing the burden, we're just extending the amount of time that we're, right? So you would be able to capitalize that stream for about $1 million project today. It would not be a very efficient debt vehicle. You wouldn't start paying debt off until almost 10 years from now.
Yeah.
So you'd be paying quite a bit of interest in the interim period, but essentially that's really what this is telling you. The second set of columns bracketed in there is actually a different, it's a general obligation bonds, but they're general obligation bonds that are supported primarily from tax levy. Okay, so not from utility revenues. There are some, as in the, I believe the Park Place project in 2014 has assessments that are coming in as well, and so I've gone ahead and updated those. The 2011 bonds, which are the other set of bonds that are supported from a tax levy, were refinancings of two different facility bonds that were issued back in the late 90s, I believe for this facility itself and the safety center. So there are some lease payments that are coming in for utilization of those, so that offsets some of the levy burden. So I've gone ahead and captured that in this snapshot as well, and you can see as you move sort of to the middle column there, your payments or levy payments on this debt is right at about just under $150,000. It actually increases a little bit from 16 to 17, but it goes up to about $150,000. And it also is level pretty much all the way out until 10 years from now, 2025. So going through the same exercise, all right, if we didn't want to, essentially increase the levy in the short term, what kind of capacity could we generate? Again, 20-year horizon. You see all the, the capacity is really on the back end starting in 2026 all the way out to 2035. What that equates to a, present capitalization of just over $800,000. The last on the right is the electric utility debt. This is debt that's paid only from electric revenues. Much shorter term of the existing debt. There's, the level of it is actually ramping down starting next year at $386,000. So there's actually a lot of capacity if you wanted to extend that as far as capitalizing on the reduction in debt service that fund or those funds are going to pay off here in the short term. I don't believe there's anything on the table, at least that I'm aware of, as far as capital projects for that fund. Again, it would only be able to support essentially electric utility improvements and things of that nature.
Quick question, is the North Substation project, will that be paid for in the short term by 2025?
10-year.
Well, 10 years would be 2025,
I think it was 10, but I'm not sure.
so that's why we were looking at 2025, that's when, or 2026.
Right, that's when everything's expired.
Okay.
Yeah.
We do have some
Okay.
loans that are going to be up in the next year or so.
Right.
So that gives us a good snapshot, yeah.
So that's the entire portfolio as it stands today. It's all fixed rate debt, so it's not variable rate. It doesn't reset or anything like that. So all this payments streams are locked in for the time being. The PFA loans, which are the majority of the water and sewer debt, again, those are state-administered loans. They do have a little more stringent of a prepayment requirement in them. So if you did have surplus money that you wanted to go ahead and start paying off your debt earlier than is shown here, there has to be some communication in advance with the Public Facilities Authority. They have to essentially give a sign-off because they have some pretty strict standards on their end. They need to keep revolving a lot of these funds back and forth, so they need some predictability on what I'll call their revenue coming in, which is you paying off of your loans, so that they can go ahead and offer loans to other communities at the same time and keep the money moving in and out. However, as long as you do forecast that to them, give them some time to react, usually they're quite open to it. Most of these interest rates are extremely low, so there's very little opportunity that I would predict you'd have to refinance any of those for a lower rate if you wanted to just save some interest costs. Really, the only avenue to reducing this burden is the prepayment avenue that I had just mentioned. So just something to monitor, not really anything that you need to take care of right now, but as far as the levy-supported debt, those bonds were issued in 2011 and 2014, so they're fairly new still. The 2011 has a call feature to where that you could really think about refinancing that starting with about 2020, I think. You could do an advanced refunding before then if you know it looked like it was economically viable for you, but most of these are actually locked out from prepayment up until that period of time. Same thing applies, though, same kind of calculus, if you will, of whether or not you'd want to think about paying down the amount of debt or refinancing. They're pretty low interest rates. We've been operating under that for quite a while now. Who's to say if it's going to continue into the future? Expectations are rates may go up, but I think people like me have been saying that in front of public bodies like yourself for many years, and they stay low. So it's good to have low interest rates. You do have them right now, but I just wanted you to be aware of the ability to refinance some of this, or restructure it, if you will, as well. On the second page, to get into just a little bit more detail about what a bond issue would cost.
Excuse me, Mayor, just to clarify this, so
Yeah.
if we go, let's say with the sewer and water, and we refinanced or restructured that, we could get, what was it, $1 million you said, possibly out of that?
Not restructuring. If you were just to incur more debt, so if you wanted to issue debt right now, and you didn't want to increase your payments
Right.
at all, but you used the whole 20 years.
Yep.
The capacity that's freed up starting in 2024 would be able to support essentially a $1 million bond issue.
Okay.
Um,
That was, and then again, the second column maximum would be 800,000.
Right. So that's almost like well, you'd still be incurring 20 years of repayment on that, but it's almost like a do no harm
With no reduced.
in terms of your annual payment structure, if you will. Now, the second page is the opposite, all right? If we just, instead of wrapping, we call that wrapping a structure. If we wrap the structure of the debt around existing debt and look at some of those capacities that are freed up over time, we call that a wraparound. This, on the second page, is actually if you just went ahead with I'll say a normal bond issue with level payments, what it would look like right now. And so I just ran some numbers for a 10-year bond issue. That means you repay the bonds over 10 years, or a 15-year, just to give you sort of a sample of, what your annual payments would be. And so principal, the applicable rate for those principal payments, the amount of interest that you would pay in each year, and then the total P&I is just adding the two, principal and interest. That would be your total payments, or essentially what would be supported from the revenue stream that's identified. I would assume that would be levy, unless there's some assessments associated with the project, or if there's a utility portion, you could, apply some utility funds to offset that levy burden. But you'll notice this is financing for a $750,000 project. When you add up all the principal payments, it actually comes to $790,000. That's because I'm including the financing costs in there, essentially close to $40,000. So you'd have a $790,000 bond that would give you your matching funds for your $750,000 in matching funds, as well as paying the cost of issuance. And then the repayment of that is really looking at about $89,000 per year at the 10-year repayment. If you went with a 15-year repayment, it's just under $64,000. So what's in your packet is actually, it shows a little bit higher. The rates have actually come down a little bit in the month or so since we last discussed this with the mayor. So that's just a snapshot of what that would look like, and really you could do, it's really up to you on how you want to structure your debt. You could go with a hybrid of the two, in between, looking at maybe ramping up payment over time as some of that capacity is freed up, or if you wanted to incur the burden of it right now, you could go with this level structure and just start making those payments, paying down principal. The problem with doing the wrap structure is you're extending your obligations out into the future, and so you're kind of hamstringing yourself in the future. When you use a shorter vehicle like a 10-year level debt service, you're actually paying down that principal, and then you're creating more capacity essentially in the future if you wanted to issue debt for other projects. The last two pages are tax impact estimates. It's a lot of details on this page. I'll be happy to answer questions about it, but if I basically took, the third page is the 10-year option, the fourth page is the 15-year option. If I plug those, assuming that you're paying 100% from the levy, if I plug those in and look at what the impacts would be to your, or to sample properties, I have a whole slew of different value residential properties. I used your tax base as it stands in 2015, so I didn't use what's expected for next year. I just used the tax base that's in place right now for 2015, as well as what the 2015 tax rate was, and then showed what the difference would be if you added on this new debt at 10 years. And so you'll see the second furthest column to the right says proposed tax increase for each one of those sample properties, and that's basically what the added burden would be to each one So if you had a $100,000 home, taking into account the market value exclusion, essentially it would equate to an $81 increase on your taxes derived from just this debt on a 10-year. When you look at it on a 15-year, that impact is down to $59 per year in your taxes. So that's kind of the down to the bare bones difference between the two. And again, this is just hypothetical. It's just to help paint a picture for you all. I know you haven't considered doing this at all, but I just wanted to help kind of frame the discussion for you as you move forward and look at the potential for matching these funds. Other than that, I don't have anything else prepared for you, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Just kind of in my head, because we were just doing our truth and taxation before this, and I put out a 5% increase across the city would only bring in $23,000 a year. So if we're looking at if you do the levy, the burden of the payment is on the levy, we're almost talking a 20% increase to get about $82,000.
Right, so where you see in the table on the upper left-hand side, it says property tax information.
Mm-hmm.
Again, and this is based on 2015 numbers, so it's not
Correct.
It's not next year's tax base, but you'll see that it's an 11-point difference between essentially what your tax rate was in 2015 and what it would be adding this layer of debt, and that's not a 5% increase as you're discussing. This is 11-point difference, so that means you're going from 56 to 67. When you actually look at that, it's about a 20% increase, as you just mentioned. Just taking what
Just I wanted to make sure I understood it. That
Absolutely.
How I had learned to think of it before, if I'm transposing it correctly, and and that makes sense to me then. Thank you. Yeah. I was hoping with this discussion it may help us kind of make our decisions as we go on some of these projects that we're looking at, because we have two big projects that we have submitted for. One, of course, was the road project. We were denied it, and I think because of the cities that did get it, it came back, they couldn't afford the big matches, so money came back to the state, and they came out and said, do we want it? And of course we said yes, because we want to look at it, and it was $750,000 matching. And the other one is for a proposal on the arena, which is a grant we put in for, and that we won't know that probably until next April. When the government, of course, is done, the state is done with all their projects through the year, because this is I believe they call it the bonding cycle.
Correct.
And we won't know until March or April, probably April. And I think that was at 1.6 million, but that is the maximum. And of course, however our project is below that, that's what we would be matching.
Right.
Which probably would be a lot lower, like maybe in the $400,000 to $500,000 matching, and part of that would be from the Hockey Association also. But that's a whole other thing. But those are two big things that we have out there. And the other item, which is nice for us to see this with the sewer, if for some reason in the next couple of years that we need to expand our capacity with ponds, and we don't know if we would be approved to be able to do that or not. I think the state told us with the last 3 approvals, which I think are still current and can be done. If we wanted to expand beyond that, they said we couldn't. We would be too large of a pond system, and we would have to look more mechanical. But that would be a huge undertaking of millions of dollars again, just kind of like our current one. So to have this information, to me, is critical, just to know where we're at, what the possibilities are, how much money and when it would be available, how we would look ahead. So that's appreciated.
If I could add, and again, I just want to reiterate, now this is a kind of a do no harm example. So you certainly have capacity, if there's wherewithal, to go ahead and increase the burden, especially within the sewer and water. I know there was a very big increase that was just done on the rates, and so I'm very cognizant of that. But part of that rate analysis that we provided, we did actually include, not to the full effect that you're speaking, but there was some future capital items that were being paid using cash, not from future debt. So we did not assume the future issuance of debt. But, if you were to do that, I think there is definitely some room within that, within the sewer and water. But again, we're very aware of these levels and the desire to try to keep them at where they are and manage them. And so I hope that this does help kind of paint that picture.
Yeah, it does, very much so. Because I think we had decided somewhere around a $500,000 reserve, just because of year-to-year problems that come up, or you don't know. I mean, you have to have something to go on. You can't just be at zero. You have to have something, which is, yeah. So I want to open up the council questions to Nick on any of this. I know this is a lot to.
Very informative.
Yeah. It's a good awareness for us, and we do have some decisions to make as the year goes on, and maybe even tonight on this matching grant with the streets. We do have time.
When does that go away, Mr. Mayor?
We have until, I believe, July. However, we have to notify the county also, because they administer the part of the program. And I'm not aware of how much they're into it, but we do have to apply through them. I think they're the governing body of the project. So they are waiting to hear if we're going to do anything.
So if we lose this money, if I understand this correctly, on a 10-year bond, if we went 5 years on these roads, we did nothing, and we lost the $750,000, the tax impact on the public would be 40% raise if we had to pay this on our own. It'd be a $1.5 million if we did nothing.
Right.
So I think that's very important.
Yes. And we can choose, in that street project, there's 3 different
Yes, there's
areas, and we
projects.
could choose the least of the road projects, or the most expensive, or combination, or none.
Yep.
And
Okay.
this gives us kind of a better picture. And Jean, anything that you got?
Nope.
Well, Nick, thanks a lot, and we may be calling you again just to qualify things as we go along, too, and that's greatly appreciated. And thank you for coming here tonight.
Thank you.
This is very good, solid information.
Yes, I appreciate
Greatly
the
appreciate it.
opportunity.
Thank you. You're welcome to stay, or definitely can leave.
He's so
It's appreciated. Thank you. We did take note of that, Councilor Peterson, on where the power and light is after 2025 there. There's a lot of money there.
Well, and
That's very nice to know.
there's a lot of possible improvements that we're going to need to do up there, too, so that's the sad part, so.
It all fits in with priority, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Hang on to that one. I advise everyone to hang on to that piece of information with this packet. All right, let's see if we can catch where we are on the agenda.
Bye-bye, Nick.
Thank you.
Let's see here.
Moving back into number 4 on the departmental reports, we have number A, Police Chief. And I think we're back on page 25 in the packet.
52. 52.
Excuse me. 52, not 25.
I apologize, there's not a cover sheet on that, my mistake, but,
Just don't let it happen again.
yeah, sure. I guess the biggest news is that they did the remodel at the police department, and I asked you guys to stop in and check it out. It's really an amazing transformation from what it was. Looks very nice, professional, it's functional, and just want to thank you for supporting us with that improvement. It means a lot to the officers, and everybody is very pleased with it. We've got a lot of positive comments and feedback from other agencies and the public. It's just very nice. So, still trying to organize everything. We had to move absolutely everything out of the office, and we're switching filing cabinets. And we were talking the other day. I think we've been there 19 years now in that building. It doesn't seem that long, but you acquire a lot of stuff in 19 years. So we had the opportunity to clean a lot of stuff out and reorganize. So our squads were involved in a assist for the county about 3.5 weeks ago, where we helped apprehend a murder suspect from Michigan. It was a very dangerous and harrowing chase, I guess you could say, but thank God we were able to get him subdued without anybody getting injured. But it's just, you don't expect something like that to happen in a small town, but you just never know. So, yeah. But no damage to any of our vehicles. The county lost a couple, but luckily ours didn't. Had the Quick Trip grand opening here. Quick Trip gave the police department $1,000, which I gave to Gene to hopefully go towards our new squad car. So that was a very generous gift from Quick Trip. Had the meeting with the advisory meeting last week with the Department of Corrections and the MSOP. It's very well attended this last time. So last night I apologize to the fire district. They had about 10 6-year-old Cub Scouts at the police department getting a tour and fingerprints and whatnot, but they were a pretty rambunctious bunch, my son included, but they had a good time, and it's a good way to show our support for the community. So that's about all I have.
We're very busy too. We have about 5 pages of items here, so a very busy month again, and appreciate that for the whole community.
Thank you.
Please pass it on to the crew.
I will. Thank you.
And it is very nice. I stopped in last night to see the office, and yeah, big improvement, and it should make the workflow easier when you know where stuff is and
Yeah, and I
how the setup is. Very nice.
just want to welcome anybody from the public that wants to stop in and see it. We're more than happy to show it off. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Number 4B, the park quote for a new swim raft. This is something that the park board has approved and sent up to the city council. I'll turn it over to Jim, who's a representative of the council on the park board.
The current raft is no longer usable. So we asked Joe to get us quotes, and he came up with this quote. And we'd like to order it now, so we get it by summer, so we can use it this year.
It will be covered under next year's budget, so
It's already in there.
it's in next year's budget, but we're still in this year.
We're in this year.
So I guess a contact been made if we can order it and pay them after the 1st. Because we do have the money and it's already into it. So I'm going to leave that up to the council on the approval.
Is that going to be acceptable?
Yeah, it should be. As far as we were told at our meeting Monday, it was.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve this.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Very good. And by the way, it is a free delivery, and they'll throw in the 2 anchors free and the chains, I believe. So they're giving a little extra for us. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 4C, Steve Evangelinski, Technology Committee update. This is the tightrope media broadcast equipment, and number B, art project for the library.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I was asked by the Technology Committee to ask the council to reconsider purchasing the broadcasting equipment, and a couple of them were going to show up tonight, but they aren't here. So, because you've gotten all the information from myself, and you have that, they just wanted to reiterate the importance to the community for being able to broadcast sporting events from the school and other community events that would streamline that process. So just ask that reconsideration. And then also, on Monday evening, the library board chose an artist for the mural project that we put out an RFQ for. That money was donated by the Friends of the Library group that disbanded. They had asked that we do a mural in the children's area. And so they did pick one, and I believe there is a initial concept that Jean passed out to you of what that would look like. And again, that is just, it is just initial. There are some changes that the board wanted to see made on that, but it would showcase a lot of the history of Moose Lake and the state hospital and the fishing pier and the lake and logging for the river and so forth. And although it's not a legacy project, it is something that is important to the community. So it would be painted on the wall in the children's area, and so it could be covered over if needed with paint in the future. It is just two-dimensional, so there isn't any sharp edges or anything for the kids to climb on or touch or break. So that money was donated, so it is available. We would like to give some money up front, $1,500 of the $4,000 to the artist so that she can purchase supplies and travel to and from. She's from Sandstone, so and I know Jean had mentioned the importance of the art in the community, and so it's good time to ask for that. So
Yeah, so open up for discussion with the council, and a motion on paying up front $1,500 to kind of get the project started, and it's of the donations that for the whole art project. Open for questions or discussion?
When is the money, when will we receive the money for that?
we already have,
Go on.
correct?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think in September it was donated to the city by the president.
Mr. Mayor, quick.
Yes.
Completion date was then like February?
By May 1st.
May 1st.
It will be probably well before that, but
Good. So I so move that we allow $1,500 down payment on this art project and the balance of $2,500 upon completion and satisfaction of the head librarian.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further questions, discussion?
How much was donated, 4,000 in total, or was it?
It
It was, sure, it was a little over 3,000 that Friends of the Library did, but we've received some donations from the community that we were able to pay a little more and pay for most of the advertising, so.
So then, so we're good with donations on the coverage? Okay. Any further questions, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carried.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to 4D, Harlan. And this is a model solar ordinance, and street lighting on Langhorse Court, street lighting opportunity on Business Drive, and the last item, new control, House Code of Aurora for the north substation.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Late last week, about Thursday, I was contacted by a company, Solar Cell, for a solar company, putting a resident in the town was going to be putting up a solar system in the city limits. We don't want to say who, but anyways, while I was going through looking for the interconnection agreements and everything, because we had a little bit informal from our power supplier, I came across the MMUA, the Minnesota Municipal Utilities Association, had a model city ordinance in there. This is just a working copy of this, and I started reading through this, and there's some common sense items that was put in there about the coverage on the buildings, like keeping it like 80%, that way for the setbacks for fire, in case for firemen to get access to the roof areas. And there's other things for aesthetics, roof penetrations. I mean, it was just a working copy. I thought it would bring it over to your attention, Mayor. Maybe we want to look this and have the city engineer kind of look at that and see if he, especially with the roof penetrations or anything foundation-wise. Because as it stands right now, anybody can just throw up a solar cell panel in the city limits without any considerations right now. Only thing we have is the state mandates that for the interconnect to the utility grid. But I just came aware of that when I was looking through this, and I'm pretty sure there are some cities that have city ordinance. I got to do a little more research on this. But it definitely is going to have to get the city engineer in there to look at for the penetrations or mounting hardware. And that's the reason why I brought it to this attention, because they contacted me on Thursday, and I brought that over to you on Friday, and you put me on the schedule right away.
Sure, and of course, as a council, we normally put them out for a month, and everybody has time to think of it, and it gives time for Gene to get it to the attorney, city attorney, and probably it would go to the building inspector. I didn't mention engineer, but it'd be probably the building inspector that would look at it, and of course, our city attorney.
Also, Mr. Mayor, they're looking at putting the system up in early spring this coming next year, so I figured this was a
time to do it.
Time to do it, yes, sir.
That'll give us time, and it'll be back on the agenda in January then. Yeah.
Just especially thinking about for the
Yeah.
access to the roof for fire, in case something happens.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Mr. Mayor, on
Yes.
page 72, just one thing I would look at, I know it's a working document, and I did talk with Harlan just for a second here, under D, I would put a number 2 under there, because there is no teeth in it for the city. If there is, let's just say it's a blight on the roof, there is no teeth for them to be able to have to remove it. So the city could do something like a 90 days to completely remove the entire system, or the city would remove it at their expense,
At whose expense?
at the homeowner's expense.
Mayor, just clarify then, so Harlan, this is for a solar system that would be within itself?
In the city limits, yes, sir.
In the city limits, and also it would affect then if you would hook up to our infrastructure, our power, both then.
I'm kind of playing catch-up right now. I'm working on an interconnect agreement we'll have to bring to the Water and Light Commission, and now policy right now.
Okay. So this wouldn't affect then hooking
no,
up to
sir.
the grid at all? Okay.
And hopefully at the next Water and Light Commission, I'll have that pretty much together then.
Good job.
And
Thank you.
Thank you.
on item B, the streetlight and Lane Horse Court, a resident requests that we put up a light on that, in that cul-de-sac. And it is dark back there. I drove by there. But because this city pays the electric bill, city council needs approved putting up that light up in that area on that.
Okay, so we need a motion tonight on that, on a street light. And this would just be a pole, a regular wood pole with a street light on it, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and
we can-
estimated cost,
We can get those, the brown, remember the old brown fiberglass ones?
Uh-huh.
We can get those for like $300 to $400 and set those in.
okay,
A little more decorative than
Yeah.
just a wooden
Sure.
pole. And wooden pole is actually be about the same cost.
okay, so nice get the nicer looking, in being that it is a newer development. So total cost, you think?
$1,500 to $2,000, sir. $1,500 to $2,000 total
Install
cost.
that.
Looking at that roughly right off my head on that.
What do we normally have that budgeted in, Gene? That's
We don't.
general fund?
My question would be, you guys would install it, pay all those costs? We
Yes,
would
sir.
Just pay the
electric
bill.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
they would-
Yeah, we install it,
Sounds a lot better with that.
you pay for the electricity.
Is that with the new LED
LED
lights?
light, yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Council, do you have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir. Street light, as you, as instructed by the mayor, I did some price quoting for the decorative lighting on Opportunity Drive. With the monies that the developer gave us, gave the city, we'd be able to buy 4 poles with the Water and Light Commission buying the fixtures out of the SIP monies. And that would include the, most of the installation costs, the concrete foundation, the pillars and that, of that $25,000.
Okay.
So, and we're looking at next year putting that in, sir,
In the spring, once it thaws?
once it thaws.
How many
Okay.
lights, street lights are up there?
At the,
No,
None.
none,
none? Okay.
None.
but that's be out of that 25,000.
Yeah. What we'll have to do is, there's a spacing that we have to follow, so we'll pick the initial 4 in and see where we're at, and then next summer, that other project, hopefully those 20 units will be in, and we'll know more how many more streetlights, and we'll have to budget for the following year's budget, but this next year, using the 25,000 that was part of the project, we'll install in the summer. That's kind of the plan. And I just wanted everyone to be aware of that. Is it wise to order them now? Do you think the price may go up?
Well, I was talking to the supplier that initially supplied the ones up on Park Place, because we're trying to match
Right,
and keep everything the same. It makes maintenance easier.
correct.
There ain't much, maybe a couple $100 difference from what was originally when they bought them up on Park Place to now. So, and they
Okay.
were, I'm trying to remember what the quote was. So I don't,
And this is independent of the budget, that 25,000, correct, Gene? It's part of for the project? So we could approve it tonight. Could approve it so he could order it and it could be stored until the spring.
yes, sir.
So I'll leave that up to the council. That's, you know, all the information.
So I make a motion that we purchase 4 streetlights for the Progress, was it
Opportunity.
There we go. Thank you,
Yeah.
Drive.
Have a second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carried. And then the cutover.
That cutover. Oh, we're finally down to our last feeder. We had a little hiccups. I'm sure some people are aware of some bumps where the power went out. On the south end of town, we found out our relay settings were a little too tight. We had to open those up because initially there was an overcurrent after that little snowfall, that little snow, created a little more current on the neutral, and it went through the 3 shots to cycle and locked that out, so we had to scramble and get those opened up. And in the old gear, we have a lever that for racking out the breakers. Well, it was next to the downtown feeder. I was trying to open that up. We're having a little problems with that one, so we may have to just leave it alone. But I accidentally hit the lever on the downtown feeder. That's the reason why I lost power here in City Hall in the downtown areas. That was only for about 30 seconds. Because we got all our the old breakers pulled out, and there's no room to maneuver around in there. So, but hopefully everything's done being off and on until about mid-January. Mid-January, we're going to be doing our final test. That's where we open up the breaker on the transmission, I mean, not the breaker, but the switch on the transmission line. Make sure everything functions in that new control house. We're going to be putting this north half of the city in the dark for about 2 minutes. That's when all the automatics should kick in, generators fire up, and bring the feeders back online and power up the town. After everything's completed, after all the commissioning done, we'll close that switch back in, and everything should realign, go back to normal utility power. So we'll have to advertise that. Well, that's the final step in this upgrade on this control house. But we're, like I said, we're down to our final feeder. We should have that done in next couple days. And then we can finish putting up the Christmas decorations in.
Questions by council?
I just commend Harlan and his whole crew on what they're doing, excellent.
The guys have been working their tails off this summer.
Unbelievable.
They're getting a little tired.
That was one question I had, the holiday lights down are on Arrowhead, because people have been asking me. And the second one is anything on the siren?
Oh, the second one, the siren? Well, the wires between the power plant and where the siren is, next to the old well house, it's frayed. So I contacted Ralph Sandberg to move that control over to the old well house, so it's right next to the siren, and he's going to be working on that here next month or two, hopefully.
It's just we need by spring for sure. 'cause,
Yes,
there's
I
no-
expressed that to Mr. Sandberg on that one. And so he says no problem on that being in there before spring. And we're taking down those wires anyway, so it's logical to move that over to the old well house next to the siren.
Very good. And the Christmas stuff will go on next week, hopefully.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Now, let's see, I don't think I
Saw that.
skipped anything. We were jumping around a little bit, but I think we got it all. Moving on to number 5, previously discussed business. The first one is approve the pawn shop ordinance. We table that. Any new action by anyone at this time? Hearing none, we'll look at B, Minnesota Capital Investment Committee. And Jean, you have no information on that at this time? Okay. 5C, consider Norwood Drive water main extension, informal survey of interest and possible single hookup. And we have Steve here tonight, our engineer. And maybe just to qualify that one last statement, I did talk to Gene and to Steve a little bit about this as a possible solution without having to do a big a water project or a new authorizing the value. We have to have all the setbacks and all these other rules that would fall into maybe which we have done on the north side of town for one individual that lived on the very end of Industrial Drive, to put in a single smaller water line to the home. And it may be, I think down there was a couple 100 yards they had to run it.
It's quite a ways.
And this is a lot smaller. This would be up by where the, I imagine where the fire hydrant is. You'd have to go down the side of the street to the home.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I think it'd be like a little less than 300 feet to get it to the house that I assume Gene sent out or tried to contact the 7 properties that don't have city water, that have the wells, and you only had a positive feedback from 1. And that's usually the case. Anybody that has wells that work, they don't want to pay an assessment right now to pay for it. That would be the council's decision, defer assessments, if you were to do the big project. The mayor asked me, is there a different way to do it? And it could be that the one house that needs the water right now, which is that white house, the third one from coming back from the end, he could run an individual service line in the city's right-of-way and tie it into his house. He could do that on his own as his own project. He would need to get a water permit from the city to do it, and then we would have to kind of, normally cities have a, part of the permit fee is either a bond or a financial guarantee that says he'll patch the road or patch whatever disturbance he does when he's done. But that again, I'm not aware if you guys have that. If you don't, we really should have it to make sure that the contractor does a good job and the city doesn't lose their investment in the street. So if you remember, we did bid that job and it was $186,000 to do it, and that's too much for what was. And one of the ideas was to bid it again like late winter, early spring this year, and see if we could get more interest if we extended the deadline for doing it. Those are just ideas, but it's up to the council. Right now we have 1 resident out of 7 that said they would want it, and that was qualified with if it was under 7,500. And I don't know where the 7,500 comes from. You know, considering what a new well would cost,
That's where you're at.
That would be kind of the test for me, is what would a new well cost if the assessment was, you know, if that was the route, if the assessment was in that range. I would think it's definitely fair and easily provable. So, but there again, at this point, maybe we just don't do anything until we get more interest in extending it, and there is a way for that property to get water, but it would be on his dime to extend it down there. But we could issue him a permit to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a good option. We could ask for bids again in January or February. And I think this to me is, the single option is to me probably the best option, least expensive for us. But it would solve his problem if yeah. And now there, of course, as Steve said, there are some problems. He'd have to go under driveways to get down to his property. And that would have to be, of course, part of the project, or whoever got the bid to do it, to correct those disturbances that happened. I don't know if they do direct drilling, or that would be, you'd have to be pretty deep for a water line, though.
The minimum depth for water service would be the 7.5 feet.
Yeah.
And that is an option that if we looked at that corridor again, he may be able to get a directional driller to go through there, and that would be the best for the city, because
Yeah.
then he wouldn't be disturbing that street. There'd be the two ends you'd have to dig up and do, but that's.
And
won't-
that may be cheaper for him too.
It may be,
Without-
right.
Because then he
and-
doesn't have to fix the road.
They got the one place where the gas is, but knowing the, once they may have to expose that to know where it is. Not sure, but, you know, the gas company could qualify that for them. But it's an option I think we need to discuss and bring forward to them if everyone agrees.
It's too bad everybody's well doesn't go out at the same time, because then we would have 7 people coming in and asking to do it, and we could figure out a way to do it then, I think. But with just one property, I mean, the council can choose to do it, but it would be kind of a battle to get the, you know, to do it, so.
I wonder if it would be more like 3, because wouldn't Al say he would want it too? And then Boylan's, and then Dwayne Grace would be the other one. That's it, he would do it if it was less than 75.
It may be that right at this meeting tonight, we just table it and let the neighbors down there, you know, discuss it amongst themselves and come back to the council. It would be so much easier if this was a petition project where they all came in and signed a petition to get the work done.
Yeah.
Right now, I thought we only had the one. Initially, there was the red house on the very end that was condemned. I think that.
But that had a good well, that very well maybe fully operational once they clean it out.
Once they get power back to it.
Correct.
So.
I know we're a little early on this yet, and we do have time, but I want to make sure you heard that option of, besides doing a whole full project, there's the possibility of the individual tapping in like we did at the north end of town. At the north end, we did pay for, what was it, a 2-inch copper line?
Like that, yeah.
From where the hookup was down our street to her property, and I think she had to pay it from the property into the home. And that would be, of course, a lot cheaper than a full project too. And I think that was done in the 2004 or 5. Do you remember? Do you remember, Mike?
Quite a while ago, Bob Ludwig
Yeah.
did the work.
I don't know if you remember, Chris, it was like 10 to 12 years ago.
She wasn't even born then, was she?
Oh, my God.
No, I don't recall that.
Oh.
But I guess I would like to see us give them this option, but I'm not sure on why the city would.
Mhm. I'm just throwing out you what I know. man.
Yeah, I guess I would like to give them that option, that they could look into that,
Yeah,
to see if that would interest them.
sure.
My question is then, if everybody else's wells start failing,
Are you going to ask the same thing?
no, but I guess what I'm wondering is, okay, would that small service line, would those people just keep their small service line? You know, if all of a sudden they have this little service line and you say, well, now we have to do the project because all these wells are failing, would they have to do it again?
That's a good question. If other wells started failing and the council was approached to go back, the plans and specs are done, go back, bid the project, and put in that main, I would ask that the property owner, if this were to happen, that he put in a single service down there now, that he install a curb stop right where we would have installed a curb stop with the project. When the main comes by, we would go from the main to that curb stop and then abandon that line going back up. I would want that. It would just be hard for the guys to go out and locate that in the future if they have to do a dig. So if we were to go down that street with a water main, we would reconnect to his curb stop. I would advise too that if he puts that in the future, there'd be no benefit to that parcel for the main that goes in, really. He would have city water service. We're really not giving him anything, and the advice there would be we can't really assess him in the future, because he paid for it.
Right.
So, and that's fair. But if it's done right, when we went by with the main, we would just connect to his curb stop, and
I just didn't want them to have to do it twice, you know, if they do
Nope.
their own service line and then again, you know.
so that would be how that would go.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other information on C? You've got a bunch of them here, Steve.
I numbered my sheets, so
The next item would be D.
Lakeshore Drive, no new information. There wasn't a pay request that came in, but I would expect one to come in at the January meeting. We've been talking to Kaminsky about getting us his final quantities. So I would expect one at the next meeting, but I don't have one tonight.
Okay. The next item would be 5E, review opportunity business park punch list, and I have no new info at this time.
I doubt we'll see anything until spring warm-up, although it kind of feels like spring again, but.
Yeah. Then we have 5F, Moose Lake wastewater treatment facility upgrade. Number 1 is update a project. Number 2 is pay request number 4. And number 3 is right-of-way easement, Lake County Power.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Brian sent up his update, and that should have been the first item in your packet. And he explains what got done in the last month and some pictures of where they're at right now.
Yeah.
And we're really benefiting from the good weather that we're having too, that's moving along nicely. Brian's happy. So, did the council have any questions on that?
Nice looking.
Well, I see that big cover on it right now down there, which again, it looks like ready for cold weather.
Well, anytime it's below, if it gets below freezing, they gotta keep that mortar heated.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So.
Then the pay request is in there, and the amount due for this pay period is $163,847.45. And that puts them at about 37% complete, and that looked right to me, and Brian assured me that it is right, so.
Good. Very good. So we need to make a motion on the $163,847.45. This is pay request number 4.
I'm so moved that we accept pay request number 4 at that $163,847.45.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further questions, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passed. We'll have to do that signature tomorrow then? This one? It's right there, I have to show it in my mouth. Thank you. That brings us to number 3, right-of-way easement, Lake County Power.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, in your packet, there was the really blue photo. We need to get power up to the, right where it says Hagfors Road. Okay? In order for Lake Country Power, to put that line in, the city needs to grant an easement on the city-owned property. And that's kind of, we're going to parallel Minnesota Power's lines. Initially, we thought we could be underneath them, is what I was told, and they told Lake Country Power that, no, you can't, our lines sag too much during the hot weather, heavy use period when the lines get really hot. They sag. So we have to put our line sort of off to the side, right on the edge of Minnesota Power's easement. So the city would have to grant the easement as described by Lake Country Power.
Okay.
This appears to me to be totally acceptable. If we want power up there, we have to give them the easement to do it. Doesn't take away our ownership of the property. It just allows them to come in and maintain the line. We have easements on other parcels for power lines that the city owns. So there's a second easement, and that isn't, Lake Country Power will need an easement from the Schmitz, which is that 175-foot strip down below our property line. And that's another easement that Brian's working on. So, but what they're asking for is that the city go ahead and sign the easement tonight, and then once the power line is actually installed, which it'll be they're going to put it in the way it's shown here, but then they'll have it surveyed, and that Exhibit A will be then produced, if that makes sense. They won't produce that until they actually put the line in.
Gotcha.
So.
Very good.
And the easement agreement itself was drafted by Lake Country Power, and I guess the city attorney may want to look at it. But it's basically just giving them the right to install the line and maintain the corridor where the line is, so.
So we need a motion on a tentative approval by the city attorney.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Open for discussion, questions?
This is straightforward.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carried. And Paul, you got that tentative on the city attorney. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula.
That moves us to G, Park Place Drive.
No new updates for the council on that. We're just waiting to review it again this spring, and then we'll make sure all the settlement has occurred, and then we will work through with A1, the contractor, on what needs to be taken out and put back in. They did go up there and do patching for the winter.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And they did leave a pile of cold mix up on the end there too, and hopefully we won't need any of it, but.
Very good. That brings us to H, Highway 73 project update, and it sounds like we have none at this time.
There was, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Roberta Dwyer did ask that we forward her all the comments that we got, and I did do that. I think she had them all already, but I sent everything to her to make sure that anything Gene and I received, she got. But I think it was all on her sheet. So now what they're doing is revising their access control plan, and I asked that she give it to us ahead of any next meeting so that it isn't just sprung on us again at the meeting like it has been the last two times. At the first time at the stakeholders meeting, it was handed out and we had never seen it before. And then at that last meeting when we invited the businesses to come, that was a revised plan that no one had seen before the meeting. And I asked her to please send it up to the council so we can see it before any other meetings. I think that's only fair, but.
Yes. And I think that's it for this section. We do have a few down in H, and we'll get to those quickly unless
Not
you
going
want-
anywhere.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Does anybody have any questions? Steve, thank you. We're good. That brings us to 5I, consider reimbursement for past HRA audits, and that is on page 86.
I'd like to table this for the next city administrator.
Council? Consensus?
Yep, I'm fine with that.
Very good. Then it will be tabled for hopefully January. I'm not sure, but hopefully. Under 5J, FEMA flood update, no new information. I think we're still waiting for a few payments. And the last, of course, next year we'll have a few more. But everything up that's been complete up now has been submitted, correct?
No.
We have one more?
Project F, we need to get that.
Just the, which Steve was just talking about, right, okay.
I want to know the engineer bills together.
Okay. That brings us to 5K, hiring timeline, new city administrator. Gene, if you could kind of fill us in on the latest.
Well, we've just been, the contract has been discussed and come to an agreement
Tentatively.
tentatively, and we're just gonna be doing background checks and reference checks, and if everything checks out, we should be good to go.
And Doug, you were thinking that what?
It'll be Friday.
Friday, okay, thank you.
I know she
You're
would
welcome.
like to give a 30-day notice to her employer, so it'll probably be
Okay,
30 days after that's complete.
very good.
Do we have a name yet, or is that waiting? No, I think it's public, it's public.
Go
The
ahead.
interviews were public, so,
Diane.
Diane Kraft Miller.
Kraft Miller.
Diane Kraft Miller. And where is she from?
Lives in
She lives in Chanhassen.
Chanhassen and works in Lewiston.
I guess with that, when do we want to set a special meeting for when Doug gets back?
I think as soon as he gets back with that info, then.
I think it would be nice for us to know, so we.
Yeah. I guess set it once we,
Something next week, you know?
Yeah, we
Should
could-
just be a short meeting.
Yep.
Sure.
we could look at it. All right, Monday the 14th, yeah, how soon to put together the info for yourself? You probably need a little
As
bit
far
of
as we don't
time.
have any forms here,
Yeah.
it would just be basically me doing notes
Okay,
on the references and the people that I talked to, giving a brief synopsis.
okay.
So that could be done. My first day off is the 16th.
16th, that's Wednesday,
It's Wednesday.
so,
It'd have to be in the evening. I work till 6 p.m.
okay.
Monday,
Chris
Tuesday.
and Jim, how early?
Wednesday would be fine with me. And I think that still gives us a timeline.
What time Wednesday? Because I've got power and light at starting at 3:30. We probably won't be done till like 5:30 or.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock?
Well, then couldn't we do it earlier if you have,
Mike's got power late.
no, I mean that if we can't do that one till 6, and he
5.
works till 6 the other days,
Yeah,
could we do it on
could-
Monday or Tuesday?
Tuesday is better.
I won't be available Tuesday.
Tuesday? Wednesday at 6, then. so.
Okay, I
Wednesday would
can-
give me the day because otherwise I'm working.
I'll make it work for, Wednesday if we can do it like a 5-ish or something, or.
Could you take a recess? Because it probably wouldn't take us very long to,
I
I
can
don't
do
think it'd
that.
take very long to give the information to you.
Yep, there would be no problem.
5 would be fine, 5.
5 PM?
That would
Okay.
be Chris.
It'd be a special. 16th of December.
And then is Bryce doing the background check, or is somebody else doing that?
We haven't requested other than what Doug is proposing to do. And we could request
I mean, he's just.
Bryce to do it
he's
also.
just doing reference checks, basically, right?
Well, I plan on going down in the community and talking
Yeah,
to.
but, I mean, the regular background check.
Yeah, I'm not doing an official background check, no.
So we should,
Are you just asking for like a criminal background check, or?
I think it's a pre-employment type background check. I know that's different than what we would typically do for law enforcement hire. What have you done in the past? Like for the past city administrator?
Why don't we have Jean talk to Marguerite to do a background check? Why don't we do it that way?
Has she done it?
That'd be the correct way to do it.
Has she done background checks?
Or she can hire somebody that can.
Let's ask her. And you can communicate with, how about we do this, have her communicate, get back to the executive board, and the executive board make a decision on what direction you want to go from there. That way we aren't wasting any time, and
But I
you
think we
guys
should
can,
do a background check of some sort.
absolutely,
Yes, we have to.
have to.
Mr. Mayor, I know an individual in the city of Virginia that does background checks. He's a retired detective from there for quite reasonable too. I could give you that information if you'd like.
Yes, let's do that, please.
Kind of be independent and,
Uh-huh. Why don't we do that? Why don't we just do that? Give that to Jean, please, tomorrow. And she can coordinate with the executive committee, administrative committee, excuse me. Consensus from everybody? Sounds good? Very good, thank you. I'm glad we qualified that, because I was kind of wondering myself the direction we went. So, very good.
That's what I'm meeting, the 16th.
Mhm.
Moving on to new business, we're down to 6E. 2016 cigarette and beer license renewals. 105.
Mr. Mayor, have there been
Yes.
any issues from our police on any of these, or?
no, sir, we haven't had any issues. We are going to be doing the tests here this month. But we haven't had any issues.
Very good. So council, motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the 2016 license renewal for the cigarette license, off-sale beer, and on-sale 3-2 for the listed individuals.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Any questions, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. That brings us back to Steve, number H, discuss the possible, did I miss one, Gene?
Yeah.
G, excuse me, 6G, approve hiring of Stephen G. Whited and Jonathan Anderson, part-time seasonal maintenance assistant positions at Riverside Arena. We did have a person that resigned last month, I believe, and what he's doing, hiring one replacement and having another person kind of like as a backup if someone can't make it or whatever. And no. Only if they need it, if someone is missing or can't make it.
Can I ask who did these interviews, or
Guile recommended them.
did he interview them, or did he recommend it to the park board? I mean, I guess I never heard about these individuals.
Ad in the paper for this, but no, I suppose he should have talked to you guys first. Yeah. I think he was just in a hurry because the guy left. He has no backup. He was out hurt. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I guess I would have liked him to have talked to the park board to get their support, and
Sure, and we can take it back to them.
And which is one thing, we should get some background checks on
I
these
did
two
actually
also,
quick background checks through the police department. on both of
because
them.
they are dealing with children, so.
I guess I'd like to see it go through the park board to see what their recommendation is.
Or we could make a motion, upon approval of the park board.
We did talk about it, Jim, the representative guy did tell us about it.
All he told us is
Yeah,
that
the two people.
that one resigned.
Yeah, we mentioned Whited, I remember him mentioning his name, and the other individual is a backup, but we never did any motion on it, or let's put it that way, there was no motion made on it. The past hirees were interviewed and hired by Guile before. That was the process, and then brought to the council. I guess I'll leave it at the council's direction.
I guess I would just like to have seen somebody involved other than just Kyle with this process. I mean, it's,
And like I said, you can still, have it go through the park board, it'd just be an extra, month or whatever. I suppose he needs help, but.
Yeah, well, I don't think they can,
They need them, I think.
he needs them now. Yeah, we have to call a special meeting as soon as possible, because he needs the people now. I don't know.
I guess I'll make a motion that we hire these two, but I think we need to change our hiring practices in some of the other areas. So
We could do this on a temporary basis till the January
Yeah, temporary.
regular meeting to discuss the whole hiring process.
That's temporarily.
I'll second that temporary hire.
I'll open it up for discussion. Are you comfortable with that, Chris?
yeah.
Doug?
So if the park board has a
what
problem
the-
with
what
some of
does
them, we can make a change.
What does temporary mean?
If
30
in
days?
January we decide we don't want to do it, we want another process, they're done until that process is completed. It'd be just temporary to fill in because he needs the help right now.
So,
The board had a problem.
so is it going to go back to the park board then, as
Yeah.
requested by? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
We did give a second, correct? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carried. And that brings us to H, Steve. Discussion of possible donation of 960 feet of 10-inch sewer pipe and of 8-inch ductile water pipe to Moose Lake School. That has to do with that meeting that we all had with the architect and the developer and the city. And this took place just last week.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I guess, what, the city currently has 960 feet of the
10-inch.
10-inch sewer line. We have quite a bit more of the 8-inch ductile iron pipe. The school is asking that the city donate that to their extension to the new school site from where it ends now for Opportunity Business Park. I believe the city tried to sell the pipe at one time and didn't receive any bids. And I mentioned to the mayor that if we did a project here in town and the contractor said, I'm going to buy pipe from a different city, there's no certificate of compliance coming with it, I would say no. You supply me, for the city, you supply new pipe. So I can understand why the city didn't receive any interest in that pipe for a public use. Here, though, it would be being put in, it ends up being the city's pipe again once it's in and it's accepted as a public improvement. The city owns the pipe again, so we really kind of gave it to ourselves is how we are looking at it. And as far as the warranty goes, if we feel it's good pipe, then we're going to accept it.
It's our pipe
It's our
to begin
pipe.
with.
So, the
big benefit is we don't pay for the pipe being put in. In other words, this is our donation to get the pipe for it is right now on the east side of Quick Trip down Moosehorn Drive East to the school property without us having to pay for that installation. Our part of it is donating the pipe. I'm kind of speaking for you, Steve, but and I talked to Spencer about it, and he said there's just no way he's going to use all that pipe, and he doesn't need that pipe. What he needs is small, for their use is small pieces, and he has what he needs. And he said that pipe is just sitting above ground in the sun. He said it needs to be used. So this is, to me,
It's a win-win.
a win-win for the city and for the school, because then it does decrease their cost of the project. And the benefit is we get it along the new road, and actually they're going to put it straight west towards,
That was my question.
Right.
Are they gonna run it
they're going to run it straight
Equally
west
to-
towards Shopko, and then south to the new building. So at some point, when that road is put in, the sewer's already there. So that's a big benefit for any developer. It's a huge benefit. It kind of helps open that up for development. One of the things they're requesting is that they'll do it that way if the city will accept responsibility for that pipe then up to where the school property, the school itself is. And talking with Spencer, he has no problem with that. There'll be manholes and sewer. The only difference is it hasn't been developed yet. In essence, it's school property all the way to the school. But it's kind of like the buyout. We're trying to do this so we have no expense along the road at all, and yet we're using the pipe.
They're going to give us easement right away for that sewer?
That has to be established,
Okay.
because that would become the utility easement for other things, electrical, water, the whole thing. Did I explain that right, Steve?
You did, yes, you did really good.
Okay.
So yes, there would be an easement. We haven't seen that yet, but we did talk about that. But we wanted to poll the rest of the council, make sure that donating that pipe was acceptable. And then the actual agreement, that the city would take ownership of the mains once they're installed to city standards, and they would be located within adequate width easements for future maintenance. Sewer and water from a school, wastewater from a school is 99% just gray water. It's not a big maintenance item as far as taking ownership of it. And we own, the city owns the sewer lines now coming from the school, and that's kind of the business that the city's in, is collecting wastewater and treating it. So
that was kind of a discussion that came out of a meeting last week, and the city, or the school now, is looking at bids, or taking bids for that whole run from the school site all the way down towards Shopko and going east and hooking up into our pipe in right next to Quick Trip on the east side.
we also should mention, we did check with the city attorney, and she advised that it was, in her opinion, proper for the city. There wasn't anything illegal about donating the pipe to another public entity for public use. And there again,
It's actually ours anyhow.
it ends up being ours in the end, the city's in the end anyways.
Just put it
So we're
in.
kind of city's giving it to the city, so.
Without the expense of putting it in. I know, yeah. And they're putting in at our standard, all the wells all along. Manholes all the way, which is very expensive also. So I guess we're waiting for a motion from the council on this item.
I'll make that motion that we donate to the school district the 8-inch and 10-inch pipe that we have available.
In 8-inch, we don't know as yet if they will even need that. But if we do it now, it's there. It'll be the 10 inches they need for the sewer.
Okay.
We encourage them to come in that way with the water.
Yes.
And
And if we're ahead of it, fine, and if they don't take it, we just keep the pipe then.
Okay.
I'll second that and then I think we have to be responsible for the integrity of the pipe, the city.
Once it's installed, correct, right?
Do I need to state that the pipe is as is? I mean,
The attorney asked that be stated.
Okay.
Now that you mention it, it's as is with no warranty. If they start putting it in and it's brittle,
Okay.
we're not warranting it. But they're free to go out and look at it, and I believe the pipe is fine, so.
Well,
But that is something the attorney mentioned.
I'll revise it as is, no warranties.
And I'll revise my second.
Any further discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carried.
Mr. Mayor, I hate to digress, but Harlan brought up something about the right-of-way agreement, and maybe, Harlan, you can explain it. It's something he would like the attorney to maybe put in there.
I was looking at the right-of-way agreement with Lake Country Power there, Mayor. The wording in here, Lake Country Power has the right to construct new facility and extensions of existing facilities within that right-of-way. I can see down the future, we're going to have to put a treatment facility in. But they would have rights to, pretty much exclusive rights to service that treatment facility, almost, with this.
Substation, or you're talking about, or?
At the sewer pumps there.
That right-of-way that he just talked about, that easement coming down,
We would,
Higford Road, right?
yeah. And as that facility, I could see it being developed eventually, a treatment facility, we would have to buy, as a electrical utility, we would have to buy that service from them.
So what are you suggesting?
That for, where this reads, it should be extension of the install new facilities with limitation that if the city would take ownership of the right-of-way, we would just pay for the materials that was used at that time. Along in those lines, sir?
Okay, you got that, Gene?
Not really, but I can talk to them tomorrow.
Okay. And Paula has it, has it down. Okay.
This way this reads, though, they would have pretty much control, Lake Country Power. And we would have to, as the utility, we would have to buy that service back from them. on that.
Okay. I got you. Thank you, appreciate it. Good point.
Probably want to, if it did expand, we'd probably want to provide our own power to it. That makes sense.
Let's see, where are we at here? We're at I believe. Make sure I got all this. Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities request for voluntary assessment wastewater legal and regulatory program. Steve, have you heard of this before? I'll get down to on page 109, the request. The request to cities, the CGMC membership voted to pay for this legal and regulatory program through a voluntary assessment in the amount of $1 for each wastewater hookup. For example, a city that has 1,200 commercial and residential wastewater hookups in its town would contribute $1,200. Because this is a voluntary assessment, the city could choose to contribute more or less than that amount. This assessment is for 2016. At our 2016 annual meeting in Austin, Minnesota, we will evaluate the progress of this new fund and decide how to proceed in future years. Attached to this letter, you'll find an invoice/pledge form. If your city is willing to contribute to the CGMC legal and regulatory program, please return this form. You can pay now by check or pledge to pay in 2016 by June 1st. And we are members of the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities. So I brought that to the council's preview. And since we just, you're just getting this tonight, if you choose to, you can look at it, consider it for the next month, and be on next month's city council meeting. We've usually done that through the years.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to table this until next meeting.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And
Okay.
we may need to know this by 2016, or we may have to notify them that it's tabled till next month.
Yeah,
Brings the 6J 2016 capital request. And I believe that is our list. I gotta dig mine out again.
Oh, boy.
Along with this item, we need to make a motion to pass the budget and the 5%.
We already passed the 5% thing.
We have to do it officially at the city council meeting after the
After
public
the
hearing.
truth and taxation, because we did it right at the end of the, right before we closed the truth and taxation,
That was to bring it
Oh,
to the
recommend it.
council. Yeah. It has to be done during the regular council meeting. And that, the recommendation was to pass the budget with a 5% tax levy increase. So it brings us to the 2016 capital requests.
And the only thing that we questioned on theirs is we thought we took the Knollwood project off at that last meeting already.
Right.
I think you just asked me to poll and see how many people
Yeah,
are interested,
yeah.
and that's what I did.
Okay.
And now we have an option right now, but we still are in a limbo kind of state.
I think I'd pull it off there anyhow, and we'll look for other avenues, even if we go down another path.
We do have to remember, we do have reserve, but that reserve is tied up with that sewer whole payment process, so whatever money we do pull out of reserve, we had to replace it because of that long-term payment. Or the other options that Nick just gave us tonight, if we look for bonding for some of the things, it's to come, I guess. That brings us with the items that are on it. It sounds like we're pulling that 100,000 off.
Yes.
Okay,
I would agree. Mr. Mayor,
yes.
did meet with Water and Light, or Public Works, and they were working on their budget themselves for cutting it, and they could cut about 10,000 off, and that would include the lawnmower and less chemicals that they were going to purchase, because they don't know how much chemicals they're going to have to buy for the new ponds. But they did request if they could have the truck, because the old truck is shot.
Okay, so on Public Works truck, a one-ton replacement, replacing the 1997 Dodge Park. Okay, that's the Dodge.
I think that was 27,000 if I.
Lot.
I don't have numbers on mine.
Oh, we took them off.
Oh,
I think it was
I think
27.
it was
I believe it
29.
I thought it was 27.
Mike, do you remember?
I thought 27, but I'm not sure. I wouldn't.
why don't we do that? Gene will get that one. We can move on to the,
And the big reason why is because they're towing, like that jet trailer and stuff, they can't tow it with the size trucks that they have anymore by the laws. They have to have the 1 ton to
Okay.
tow things now.
so we're saying cross out the Public Works mower right now?
That's what they,
That's
Yeah,
already
it
off
has
there.
been taken
That's
off.
already off there.
yeah.
Okay,
And it actually was like I think the mower was like 7,000, but they said they could do another 3,000 on chemical, so they could kick in, I think that was like about 11% of their budget, 10,000 cut.
I would like
okay.
to.
You're saying, excuse me,
Go
Chris.
ahead.
you're-
No, go ahead.
You're saying within the overall budget, not on this page, but on the other.
Theirs,
So
right.
you're saying you could add, we
Could
can
take
add 10
10,000 off
plus 10 onto
their
this?
budget, yep,
So we could add
Which would
10,000
add
onto this?
10,000 to this,
right.
Okay.
which you could then put the mower back on there if we wanted to.
Well, let's wait till Gene gets back
Yeah.
with, because there are other items on here that we may want to prioritize before the mower.
I would like to propose or make a motion that we add the kitchen project for the Historical Society on there for the 25,000. I think that's very important that we get that completed, and I think it'll be more rentable.
I agree, and do they get all the rent for that, or do we get, the city get a portion of it, or how does that work?
I believe right now it goes to them.
I'd like to negotiate something, a way to recoup some of our money we put into that place too.
Of course, they put everything they get back into the place, so either way.
Chris, did you say you made a motion?
Well, if I need to make a motion or just
Okay.
propose, I don't know how you want me to do it.
I think we do a motion at
Okay,
this
I'll
time.
make a motion that we add the $25,000 to the Historical Society for the kitchen project completion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? So that is added on, Gene, 25,000. Mr. Peterson said they subtracted 10,000 from their budget.
I know what they're talking about.
Oh, so would 10 be added on to this total
Well,
by them doing that?
the truck is 27,000. If they're gonna take 10 out of their chemical,
Chemical and the mower is what they said they would,
well, the mower we just took off, so.
yep.
that-
So it'd be another 3,000 that they could cut.
So you take 3,000 out of the chemical.
They could do that,
Just
yep.
three? Because I think they
Yep.
budgeted that for like 20,000, and
Yep, just 3.
So you're saying adding 13,000?
Yeah, the 3,000. Because they
Okay.
were talking about taking the mower off here.
I
Yeah,
got you.
3,000, and the mower was 7,000, so.
I got you.
so then
Okay.
there's 17 then they need for the truck, if the truck is 27.
27.
You already pulled the mower
We
off.
already pulled the mower off here.
So it's a
the
moot
truck would
point. You're
still be-
talking $3,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're only talking 3,000,
You're
so it's
talking
24,000.
3,000. So the truck would be 24, basically.
Correct. If you,
And then increase their,
Yeah. Chemicals by 3.
The police vehicle that was agreed upon at the time, that's 40,000. Okay, the truck, that brings us down to the park mower, that was approved. And the rotor, playground, the rotor for the,
no, that was taken off.
that is not, okay, that is,
That was
that's,
another-
that'll be a rental,
I think rent.
okay. Arena tables and chairs, 2,000. Okay, and the sewer jetter trailer,
20,000.
that was approved, 20,000. Electric for the new pavilion is on hold. Handicapped accessible doors to the library, 6,069.
Yep, we left that.
Now, I have not given that information to Owen yet, Gene. And
They may contribute some of that.
they may help us with that, the senior living home wellness program.
That'd be great.
Then it brings us to Norwood, that is now off.
And now,
Could, okay, then we have the broadcast equipment, which was 27. And you heard Steve talk to us today, and I know it's a benefit to the school and the community and to the people involved with the broadcast part, so that's up to the council. If we don't use the Norwood property that does all the money for the Norwood, that there's 100,000 there that, there's a possibility with that funding being used at other places.
We could also earmark some of the project as well.
Pardon?
We could earmark some of the money for the project as well, if we didn't go with the whole project. I don't know if that's beneficial or not. It's an option.
Well, if we put the 27,000 back in there, like, roughly we'll be spending 130,000 of the 170,000, 77 we have left.
Is that including the historical system?
That's, no,
25.
145,000 of, so that leaves us a little cushion
yep, we're still.
too, which, and that's still better than years past.
Yep.
Having miscellaneous money.
Well, we definitely shouldn't get written up.
You're always going to have this.
Not this year so much. Next year we should be totally clear of funds that have not been allocated, unallocated expenditures, let's put it that way. So what did the council decide on the?
Haven't made a motion yet to
Okay.
put the broadcasting. I'll make a motion then to see where it goes here. If we're to put the broadcasting equipment back in the budget, 27,610, I believe.
We have a motion.
Seconded.
Any discussion?
And again, we need to, look at it piece by piece of what needs to go in. I agree with that, and see what benefits they are for the public,
So you would want maybe, before this is expent, maybe
Review
a
with
discussion in
benefit.
January on how that is spent and what is going in?
Yep.
Well, and I would like to see the new administrator have a partake in that
Yep.
discussion.
Look at it.
you know,
Okay.
With little cost analysis of.
So
Okay.
then, that just budgets it,
It's budgeted,
but we want to see it brought back to us for approval.
Yeah.
okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. That brings us down to then the total package, the total budget package, plus what you've approved right here, the total budget with the 5% tax increase. We need a motion on that.
Well, I will make that motion, that we approve the budget with the capital requests and a 5% levy increase.
Can I just make a comment? Do we have to approve them together?
Or do we have to do them separate?
I think we do it all together.
I would prefer we
correct?
do them separately.
Because
You
the
wanna do
levy
it
was one
separately?
issue.
Yeah, the levy is one issue in the budget.
Okay.
I would prefer.
You
we-
prefer, okay, then the budget first?
I'll still make the motion that we approve the budget with the
Capital-
updated capital improvement
Okay.
requests.
Do you have a second?
I'll Go ahead.
You can.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Then a motion for the 5% tax levy increase.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second it.
Open for discussion?
We'll need those funds for roads and it's, just improvements of the city.
I agree to that, but yet I still think with the large increase with the utilities that I would like to see a zero again this year.
I would comment on that. I'd rather see us down at 1 or 2% if we we're going to do it myself. I think with the increases we've done and with what money we do have left, 23,000 I know will help, but it isn't that large amount, but it does affect the families. That just my opinion. And hearing another, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Aye.
So we have a 3-1 vote. The motion carries. And let me see where we're at. That brings us to reports and correspondence.
Go back and figure out if we're gonna do anything with this MnDOT grant thing. Wasn't that on here
Oh.
somewhere?
Thought we were holding off.
We'll wait until next month on that. I think gives you guys a chance to look at the debt, and we should bring forward the information on all 3 roads. You know, there's 3 parts of it: Kenwood, 3rd Street, and also Earl Allen's Drive. We should have all that information in front of us.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll notify the county that we are not making the decision this month. And the state, we have time as far as they're concerned. The problem is with the county because they have to assign somebody, or it has to be in their program for the year. And I'm going to tell them we're just not ready yet, we haven't made a decision.
Well, that's fine. I just wasn't sure if we were done with it when we
Yeah.
left it earlier.
Personally, I'd kind of like to wait to see what happens with the arena, because, that's a big, huge.
Well, it's up to the council because we do have till July. The problem is, the longer you get into the year, when you try to do a bid in July,
It can be more expensive.
they're far more expensive than if you do it now. We will know though, hopefully we'll know in March or April, but you can go up for bids right away in April, but even then they probably will be, now let's just say a lot of them will have their work maybe planned already by then. It wouldn't hurt to look at them in January. We could ask for bids, doesn't mean we have to do them. Nor do we have to take the money. You know, the matching, and it gives you a chance to look at what Nick talked about tonight, the debt and when, how much, and hopefully we can come to agreement of balancing all that. Any other questions on that? Thank you. Reports, Chris Peterson, Small Cities Development Grant. Where do we have that, Gene? That is page,
It was the
It's a
handout.
handout.
it is a handout. Okay. Now, this individual is not within the designated area for that small city development grant money. First Street was designated as the boundary, and he has the old funeral home that is just on the west side of First Street. And I think we all know the shape of the building. It could use the money.
Absolutely.
His only recourse is if there's money left over, it could be used if the small city development program agrees to allow him to use it. It's not our choice. It is in the kind of the state's hand.
It's not that easy to switch now, and something happened because
I thought
they
it
were
was in there.
supposed to be included.
I thought so too.
I know, but something
too.
happened somewhere. There was someone that started this grant, and then someone else took it over. And I think Pat thought that something got messed up with the map there or with the areas. I don't know what happened.
Didn't somebody leave the project, though?
Correct.
And I
Yeah.
think that they had the plans,
Yeah.
because this was part of the plan.
That's what I always thought too,
Yeah.
but it's not in the plan, so.
The only choice is if, as the program goes on, if there are no more applicants and there's money sitting there, then they can decide, the small cities program can decide if it can be used for his property. So that is our,
Is there any way, though, Mr. Mayor, that we could send a letter of support that it was our understanding that his property was in the original plan, and through no fault of his own, it was not included?
we
And
could
he
do,
does have city
we could
support?
do a telcon with them.
Because
We could do a telcon with them.
That, because
It could be Gene and I, or it
We
could
could-
be the
yeah.
administrative committee and Gene. It's up, how do you want to handle that?
I mean, I know that place needs help, and we were
all
on
of
the
us looked at it.
understanding that it was in it,
Yep.
so I would like to see them be able to.
Do you guys want to do it, or do you want Gene and I to do it?
I think,
I think you
All right.
can do that during the
Thank
day.
you.
All right. And I think there's a lot of time yet. This program is going to go on for quite a while. And even if we don't have results with the first telecon, the new city administrator could definitely get involved too at a certain point. I don't think he's looking for any more action other than we can inform him that we can attempt. This is kind of informational from the individual to us. Committee and board meeting minutes, Moose Lake Active Living Coalition meetings are enclosed. And did we get the fire district?
Yep.
Yeah.
We did get the fire district.
I stole your copy.
Oh, you did? Thanks a lot. I think the fire run is in there. I usually like to go over them real quick. For November, there's 43 calls, 31 medicals, 2 calls to a building fire. 1 was a rekindle. 4 dispatches were canceled. 2 motor vehicle with injuries. 2 motor vehicles without injuries. 1 false alarm. And smoke or odor in the house, there was 1. Total of 43. 23 in the city of Moose Lake, 10 in Windermere, and 9 in the Moose Lake Township. 1 out of area to Barnum was canceled. So they had a very busy month also. Thanks, Chief, and please pass it on to all the firemen. Good job. Announcements number 8.
Let's see.
Regular Moose Lake City Council and organizational meeting. We're going to have an organizational meeting first, and we should do that each year. The first thing in January 13th at 6:30 p.m. We'll open it as organizational meeting, close it, and then we'll open again as a regular Moose Lake City Council. Continuation Truth and Taxation meeting, 6 p.m. City Council Chamber, December 16th at 6 p.m. if needed, and I don't think we need that now, so that can be crossed out. Moose Lake Power and Light Commission, Wednesday, December 16th at 4 p.m. Moose Lake Conference Room. Moose Lake Housing and Redevelopment Authority Board, Monday, December 14th, 11 a.m. at the Hillside Manor office. Moose Lake Area Fire District, January 12th, 6:30 p.m. Emergency Response Center. Moose Lake Park Board, Monday, January 11th, 6:30 p.m. at right here at the chamber, at the building here. Library Board meeting Thursday, December 17th, 4:30 p.m. City Conference Room. Moose Lake Technology Committee, Thursday, January 7th, 10 a.m. at the City Conference Room. Do you have a
I
motion?
think there's a correction. The park board's probably the 4th, because it should be the first Monday of the month.
It'd be the first one to get the wrong date on there.
Absolutely.
Oh, I could have made that mistake.
We'll check that right now. Did you check it, Jim?
I didn't check the official date, but I know it should be the first Monday. I believe.
January 4th. So that's a correction. Who used to do that? Mark Volsing.
No, Dave.
David Talbot.
Dave and Mark.
Time too.
Some good footsteps, Gene.
I think Ted made
Just
that
like Park,
mistake.
January 4th,
I don't think that was Gene, that was Ted that did that error.
maybe. Do I have motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Adjourned. Thank you.